Hi everyone, and thank you for tuning in. Welcome to another episode of In the Studio. I'm your host, Lin Weaver. The program is brought to you by Davis Media Access and broadcasts on Davis Community Television, that's Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T UVerse Menu 99. We're also online at dctv.davismedia.org and on YouTube. Today, our topic is sexual assault. It is a wrenching topic which has lately attracted a lot of media attention. There was also a recently produced documentary, The Hunting Ground, which was shown, actually premiered on the Sundance Film Festival. The question is, or the questions that I have are, is sexual assault an expression of our culture, or is it a way of perhaps not understanding or not being aware of what sexual assault is? And who are the perpetrators and who are the victims? Well, let's find out, because my guests tonight are very dedicated and very knowledgeable about this topic. My guest is Michael Leahy. Thank you for being here. Don Yackzan, thank you. And Natalli Melgoza. You are all dedicated citizens, and you are part of a grassroots organization which is called Sexual Assault Awareness Campaign. And you are the founder, I believe, Dawn, of the organization, and you, Michael, are in charge of the publicity and education part of the nonprofit and of the company. And you, Natalli, are a junior high at Emerson. And we'll go a little more into your backgrounds and why you are so involved in this initiative. But first, I would like to show a short PSA clip, which, by the way, is silent. And the clip has been produced by some 9th grader at Emerson?
At Holmes.
At Holmes, sorry. And so let's take a look at this clip. Very powerful. A comment?
Even without any words, with the PSA, it says a lot, and it makes you stop and think. And I think that's what we're wanting people to do, and then talk.
And talk.
Exactly.
Yes.
Talk about this. As you mentioned, it's a very painful and serious issue, and these are conversations that we're trying to start.
Dawn, any reaction to this PSA?
A lot of the student reaction that I've heard is that they are hungry for this information. They think sexual assault is a very serious topic, and they have been very receptive to Empower Yola and the education that we have pushed into the schools. And
Natalli?
Being a student, I did a PSA, and no one in Emerson did a video, and it was really cool to see actually a video without even just speaking. That really hit me hard.
Well, it's very suggestive, very powerful and compelling, which is great. Well, I want to talk about sexual assault and what it is, and who is affected by sexual assault. But first, let's do a little bit of introduction. And this time I'm going to start with Dawn. Very briefly tell us about why you became involved in this, and what is your objective, what you hope to achieve.
Okay. Well, I became involved because I'm a teacher, I'm a parent, I'm a community member, and I love the community we live in, and I know that we have an epidemic problem in this country, and we have some issues in our town. And one of the things I love about Davis is that when we do have a problem, we work together and we start to solve it. So I was seeing too many people, hearing too many stories, from friends to students to people I care very much about, who are being hurt. And I started to learn more about the premeditated aspect of this, the serious trauma of and how it's received by victims and how they respond to it, and how there weren't enough avenues of support, and many of them go on to try to commit suicide after they're violated. And so I thought, we need to work together here. And so I asked quite a few people to come together, influential people, and we got together in the superintendent's conference room, and we began to work. And we began to work on issues to start bringing education into the schools, and then follow that with a campaign to go out broader with the community.
Well, it's a very extremely helpful and honorable things that you're doing, which is great. Now, Michael, you are a teacher too, and you're a coach.
I'm a counselor. Yeah, I'm a school counselor at Emerson
Yes.
Junior High, and I'm also a basketball coach at Davis Senior High School.
Yes, well, I can see you're a basketball coach because you're very tall. How did you come to, through networking, friendship, or?
Well, it's always been a topic that's been very dear to me. I mean, I'm a brother of two sisters. I'm a son, and so the women in my life have always been very influential, and their safety has been always paramount to me. And so, I've been inspired by Dawn and her efforts, and kind of heard her call to, let's join the national conversation and bring it here to Davis and bring it into the schools, where we have an opportunity to directly create some change, create conversations, and get kids talking about this, talking about sexual assault, about dating violence, creating healthy relationships. These are topics that aren't always discussed in our schools. We don't always take time out of the rigorous academic studies that we provide here in Davis.
Oh, that's very true.
To talk about
yes.
To talk about things that really are impacting kids now in their lives, 8th graders, 9th graders who are starting to get into relationships. So I feel like it was the perfect time. We're lucky enough at Emerson to have a class, our peer helping class, started by Jennifer Terra, who's a PE teacher, and she also was the teacher of the peer helping class, a class that's been on Emerson's campus for over 20 years.
Very interesting.
And Natalie's a member
and
of
Natalie
that class.
Yes, Natalie, so you are a student at Emerson, and tell us about this peer class.
Peer helping. It's
Peer helping, yes.
run by Miss Terra, Jennifer Terra. My dad was in the class, so it just kind of influenced me. Yep. To keep it going, and I've learned a lot. I've learned just to be comfortable with myself, and I learned a lot about other people and diversity. And this year is the first year we're doing Empower YOLO, and I don't know, it's the few weeks that we've had it, it's really been a great experience, learning about relationships and also just learning about how to take care of ourselves. And the sexual assault unit, a lot of us got really into it with the PSAs that we did. It was really fun just to kind of like get together as a group and understand, because like they said, we don't really have a class meant to like learn about sexual assault and things. So having that program really helped us all out.
Do you have a class on sexuality? or not? Not at Emerson?
We have health. We have health curriculum that's taught as part of this. It's a graduation requirement that all ninth graders are taking a health class.
Okay.
And I know that the health teachers, the ninth grade health teachers, have invited Empower YOLO into their classroom.
Yes.
And that has been before this school year. That was the last time that high school students received any curriculum about making healthy decisions or dating,
Why is
relationships.
it the last time? Is it because?
That's because that's when it's offered, is in ninth grade.
I see.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
it's one shot,
it's
basically.
Exactly right.
And that nothing afterwards.
And
yeah.
And I would say that there's definitely some movement to change that,
with your sexual assault awareness, you're doing that. Let's touch on Empower YOLO, because you mentioned that. Anyone wants to describe it?
Well, I learned about Empower YOLO a while back, and that when I was hearing about issues that our young adults were facing, and if we think, let's just think about the culture that they're being raised in with TV, movies, internet, and music videos. They're exposed to a lot of extreme material, and some of it not healthy and not really realistic in terms of daily lives, and certainly not what we want. And these and so we needed to give them back some education, something to push back with, something to equip themselves with. Empower YOLO, I found out, does outreach education, but they weren't in our Davis high schools right when the kids need it. And so that's why I said, we had this meeting and we said, why don't we push them into our high schools and maybe more at our junior highs. Well, luckily, Mr. Leahy and Mrs. Tara at Emerson embraced that completely, and they brought him in a broad way where they do 16 weeks of education. And this really shifted the lives of these kids, because now they have so much more awareness.
Well, this is wonderful. And a lot of credit goes to you, and to you, and to you. So I'm very impressed. What is sexual assault? And you can jump in. I mean, we have these buzzwords, but when we come down to it, I love definitions. I love what is it, Anyone, what is sexual assault?
I think different people describe it differently.
Very good point, yes.
Yeah, I think that, the traditional classic thought of sexual assault is rape, or unwanted or strong advances or overpowering of sexual acts against one person. And it's also when we have laws against people having sexual relationships with someone who's under the influence of alcohol. And it's a complicated
Yes.
crime.
Yes. Michael, any thought about
I was going to say
what's
the consent, an act without consent.
without consent?
Without
In other
consent.
words, it's violence.
Yes.
Something
And it
against
can
your
come
will.
and it can come in different forms.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
psychological, emotional, physical.
of course.
Yeah.
And the victims can be not just young women or older women, but men and children, of course, which is which sometimes we forget.
I think I saw the Center for Disease Control, I think, said between the ages of 11 and 17, 12% of boys have faced some kind of sexual assault, and 22% of girls have encountered some form of sexual
It's enormous,
assault. Yeah,
yes.
that was most recent stats.
And 1 in 4, 25% of the women on campuses usually endure some kind of sexual assault, which is one analogy made in the hunting ground was that if your son was admitted to school and you wrote and said, Johnny's going to get into school, unfortunately he has a 25% chance of being shot by one of his peers in a drive-by shooting. However, we're welcoming Johnny to school. Good luck. a lot of people would say, we're not sending Johnny to that school, but they don't bring up these statistics, and they usually are against women, and certainly against some men who are damaged terribly, and they are not speaking enough, and that's why in that documentary it's powerful.
Well, there is a certain Puritanism about talking about sexual matters in every society, but sometimes, because I believe people feel more comfortable with violence, physical violence, not sexual violence, than sexual matters, and there's a lot of hypocrisy that comes out
and
about that.
Paola says that same thing, and they said it's important to remember this is about violence. This is not about sex. And keep in mind that if you keep that in mind, it might be a little easier not to sweep it under the rug.
No,
and
of course
one
not.
of the reasons we're doing the campaign after and Paola, by the way, used to be I think called the Sexual Assault Crisis Center, and now I think they've changed the name to Paola because the previous name may have scared some people away.
Right.
But they wear a lot of hats, but the education piece is so wonderful because they push in and give this education, and then we follow that education with a campaign where we're going out broader, more broadly to the community, so more people can talk about it.
Right. Natalli, when you think of sexual violence, sexual assault, do you think, well, two things. How do you imagine this? I mean, not in details, but what do you think it is in your mind? And two, do you think you can protect yourself from that?
I think, like Dawn said, I think a lot of just teenagers think straight to rape, and that's what I thought before in Power but Camilla, our kind of like sisterhood leader, I guess.
Yes.
That's what, she's really just kind of opened it up and told us exactly, like today we had a conversation since we met today. She said sexual assault can be like online as well, like sexting or just provocative text messages to each other and pictures. And just hearing that kind of just shocked all of us, like, whoa, this can happen on our phones too. And then to protect myself, I have thought of like just like if I'm out at night with my friends, like what happens if someone comes the corner, or if I just see someone kind of look mysterious or harmful. I do just kind of like stay my distance and just kind of get out of there. But I think you can prevent yourself from getting harmed, but it's not like it's going to work 100% of the time for most people. So.
Well, it's interesting because we're talking about, because you were talking about the stranger that will assault you, and it's sort of like someone who will knife you or shoot you. But then sexual assault can also happen, and that's where it gets very troublesome and difficult to explain with people that you know, and in the case of young people, your boyfriend, for example, or someone you've just met and who seems very nice. Am I saying this?
Yeah, and you know, when I was growing up, I think a lot of the messages that I heard about sexual assault or preventing rape, but it was always the responsibility was always falling on the women or on the girls to protect themselves, to make sure they had a can of mace, to make sure they watched their drink, make sure they went out with friends, and that just never settled well with me. And that we're putting the responsibility on the women, where the men are. It's almost like it's inevitable that this is going to be happening. No, let's stop men from raping. That's or from committing these crimes.
Well, you're really making a very good point.
And that's where I wanted, and that's where I think my own personal passion is really about trying to change the attitudes of young men around relationships and being responsible and
staying with you,
yes,
Michael.
yeah, getting away from blaming the victims.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And staying with you, Michael, do you think that our culture here in the United States, especially in the 21st century, encourages this and even condones this? I'm not saying sexual assault, but for a man to be aggressive, dominate, whether it's being powerful.
Well, right. I think there's definitely a double standard, and I think it does come down to this imbalance of power, and who has the say, or who has the power in a relationship, or in the workplace, or I don't know if it's fully condoned. I mean, I guess if we were to look at the way that laws have been written, and we look at a lot of different areas, then it's hard to deny that.
Yes. What would you say, and I'll ask Natalli, what would you say the society, citizens, young and old, should do beyond what Dawn and Michael and you have created, education? What do you think should be done? What would be the most important thing to counterbalance this aggression, this trend, this epidemics?
I just think like spreading the word more, because we don't really, like, in school especially, it's not like we have a designated period for like learning about sexual assault. It's just like, oh, you have math, English. So I think if we just have like a class, or like in health with Miss Hartso or something, to just kind of spread the word a lot more, and also just like in our society, in our community of Davis, to just let people know like this needs to like stop. And
That's very, and to show movies of the consequences of these actions.
And to have the district attorneys not be afraid of losing trials and pressing charges. And if Time Magazine is right, and 3% of the rapists are creating 90% of the rapes, then we may not have as
the
big
suicide, you mean?
Of the rapes.
Of the
If 3% of the rapes are perpetrated, but there's 3%, they quoted 3% of the men are creating rapes, and they're causing 90% of the crimes.
Yes.
So that we may not have as big a problem as we think if we could just start going after the perpetrators. And as Michael was saying, less victim blaming and more focus on the perpetrator, and building off of what Natalli was saying, having bystanders paying more attention and not afraid to call for help, or to intervene, or just say, that's not cool.
Yes, we have very little time left, and the time flew, and I am sorry we weren't able to talk about the bystanders, educating the bystanders, and that's crucial, because of course if even your friends won't do anything to help or to rebel against this violence, then it shows. I mean, it's a lost battle, isn't it? I just wanted again to say, Dawn, perhaps you can say, and we'll show your website, which is a beautiful website.
Oh, thank you. My daughter did that.
Yes, your daughter did that.
My daughter put
That's
that
fantastic.
Thank
and
you.
also, you wanted to briefly. So, if we could show the website, and you can go there and familiarize yourself with a lot of the things that the campaign. And also, you wanted to quickly mention the event that you're planning.
Thank you. I did. I just want to mention that Empower Yola, who is so helpful in educating in our schools, is having a fundraising event where they talk a little bit more about relationship violence on June 20th at the Alumni Center at UCD.
June 12th.
20th.
20th, sorry.
20th. And then it's a summer solstice, just shining light on teenage violence and how we can help. And I also just want to mention that the PSA that you saw, the short video, will be going into the movie theaters, and that other young folks would like to make a public service announcement motion video of 25 seconds will be shown in the theaters, Regal Theaters in Davis.
This is wonderful work, and we should
you.
all be supporting you. And I am so glad that you took some time off your very, very busy schedule to come and talk to me about this. And I'm really grateful on behalf of Davis and the community that you are doing this for our children, for our grandchildren, for our senior citizens, and for everybody. And let's try to become a gentler society, and I think we can do that. I'm very hopeful about that.
Yes.
So Michael Leahy and Dawn Yackzan
Yes.
and Natalli Melgoza, thank you so much for coming here. And thank you all for watching. You've been watching in the studio. If you'd like to stream this episode again, you can go to our website, dctv.davismedia.org, and we're also on YouTube. And our archives have a lot of very interesting programs, so check them out, log in and enjoy some of the other episodes or some of the other programs, not just in the studio. Thank you all for watching again. Thank you, my guests, and see you next time.